magnificent looking animal. It was only 3 metres long. It didn't have a mark on it. When she first came in, gave us an opportunity to tag her, and he placed his tag perfectly.
A 9-foot great white shark vanished in seconds. Not injured, not sick, just gone. The satellite tag scientists attached to her fin told a story that made marine biologists question everything they thought they knew about the ocean's apex predators. The data showed something impossible: water temperature spiking from 46 degrees to 78 degrees in seconds, the shark plummeting nearly 2,000 feet into darkness, and then 8 days of movement at crushing depths where nothing should survive. This wasn't equipment failure. This was a digital crime scene. And when researchers finally pieced together what happened, they discovered something far more terrifying than any myth or legend. The ocean's most feared predator had been devoured. But by what? I'm going to walk you through the scientific investigation that solved one of marine biology's most disturbing mysteries. And I'm warning you right now, the answer is going to change how you think about great white sharks forever.
We tagged 4 or 5 great white sharks, and one of them in particular, Shark Alpha, was around 9-10 feet in length.
The perfect specimen. Let me set the scene for you. Off the coast of Australia, a research team was tracking great white sharks. Standard conservation work. They were trying to understand migration patterns, feeding behaviors, all that good stuff that helps us protect these incredible animals. They found her cruising near the surface. 3 meters long, about 9 feet from nose to tail. Now, in the shark world, that's not a baby, but she's not full-grown either. She's a teenager. A healthy, powerful teenager entering her prime. The researchers named her Shark Alpha. Here's what's important. She was pristine. Not a single scratch. Not a bite mark. Not a scar. She was a perfect specimen of what an apex predator should look like. Strong. Healthy. Confident in her place at the top of the food chain. The team carefully approached her and attached a sophisticated satellite tag to her dorsal fin. Now, these tags aren't your basic GPS trackers. These things are essentially black boxes for sharks. They're recording everything: depth, light levels, water temperature, every single minute of every single day. The technology is insane. These devices are built to withstand pressures that would crush a car. They resist corrosion from salt water. And they're programmed to detach after a certain period, float to the surface, and beam all their stored data to satellites orbiting the planet. Think about that for a second. We can literally see a 3D replay of a shark's entire life. Where it went, how deep it dove, what temperatures it experienced. It's like having a GoPro inside the shark's world. For 4 months, everything was textbook. The tag pinged regularly. Shark Alpha was doing exactly what a great white should do, moving along the coast, diving for fish, hunting seals. The scientists were gathering standard data. It was frankly boring. But in science, boring is usually good. It means your equipment is working and nature is behaving predictably. The team was happy. They had a healthy shark giving them quality data about great white behavior in Australian waters. Then the pattern broke. The signal vanished. Just stopped. No warning. No gradual decline in transmission strength. The shark was there, and then she wasn't. At first, the researchers thought maybe the tag malfunctioned. Maybe it detached early. These things happen. Technology fails sometimes, especially in the harsh ocean environment. Weeks passed. Then the tag washed up on a beach. And here's where it gets weird. That beach was only 2.5 miles from where they originally tagged Shark Alpha. Do you understand how strange that is? When these tags detach, they drift with ocean currents. They can end up hundreds or thousands of miles away. Sometimes they wash up in completely different oceans. For this tag to come back to almost the exact same spot? That's not normal. When the researcher walked down that beach and picked up that small plastic device, he had no idea he was holding evidence of something unprecedented. The physical condition of the tag was the first clue that something violent had happened. The data that changed everything. The tag looked like it had been through hell. The casing was worn, battered, and bleached. It looked like someone had dropped it in a chemical bath. But the real story, the horror story, was locked in the digital memory. The team took it back to the lab and plugged it into their computers. They downloaded the timeline, and as the graph appeared on the screen, the room went completely silent. The data showed Shark Alpha swimming at a normal depth. The water temperature was steady at 46 degrees Fahrenheit. That's cold, deep ocean water. The depth was consistent. Light levels showed it was daytime. Everything was normal. Then the line on the graph did something that shouldn't be possible. It shot straight up. The temperature didn't rise gradually. It spiked. In a matter of seconds, the sensor went from 46 degrees to 78 degrees. That's a 32-degree jump. Instantly. Now think about that. Where in the open ocean does water temperature jump 32 degrees in seconds? You'd need an underwater volcano. You'd need some kind of extreme thermal event. The researchers checked. There were no volcanic vents in the area, no geological hotspots, nothing that could explain this. But the temperature spike was only half the story. At the exact same moment the heat spiked, the depth sensor went absolutely crazy. The shark, or rather the tag, was dragged down. And I don't mean it sank, I mean it was pulled. It plummeted 1,900 feet into the abyss. This wasn't a gradual descent. This was a power dive. Steep, fast, violent. Have you ever been deep underwater? Even 30 feet down, you can feel the pressure on your ears. At 1,900 feet, the pressure is crushing. We're talking about pressures that would implode a human body instantly. But something dragged that shark down there in seconds. The data kept recording. For 8 days, the tag stayed in the dark, moving around. The temperature held steady at 78 degrees the entire time. 8 days. The scientists looked at each other. They ran the diagnostics again. They checked for equipment errors. They analyzed every possibility. And they came to one unavoidable conclusion. The tag was inside something. Inside a stomach. A 9-foot great white shark, an apex predator, one of the ocean's most formidable hunters, had been ambushed, overpowered, and swallowed. The digestion process had bleached the plastic casing. The stomach acid had worn down the exterior. But the electronics survived, and they told the entire story. Shark Alpha was gone. Eaten. But here's the question that haunted every researcher on that team. What kind of monster is big enough to swallow a shark the size of a car? Hunting for the killer. When this story broke, the internet lost its mind. Everyone wanted to know what killed the shark. The theories started flying immediately. And the first suspect that everyone pointed to was the obvious one. Orcas. It makes perfect sense, right? Killer whales are the only animals we know of that regularly hunt great whites. They're intelligent. They hunt in coordinated packs. They're absolutely ruthless. In South Africa, there are these 2 male orcas that have become famous, or infamous really. Their names are Port and Starboard, and these 2 are like serial killers. They've been terrorizing the great white population off the South African coast for years. Their hunting method is terrifyingly precise. They work together to corner a shark. Then they use their massive tails to create currents, or they ram the shark directly, flipping it upside down. Here's something most people don't know. When you flip a shark upside down, it enters this state called tonic immobility. It's like a trance. The shark becomes completely paralyzed. It's a biological glitch in their nervous system, and orcas have figured out how to exploit it. Once the shark is helpless, the orcas perform what can only be described as surgery. They bite into the pectoral area right near the fins, and they squeeze out the liver. Just the liver. They want that nutrient-dense organ because it's packed with fats and energy. It's like high-calorie shark butter. They leave the rest of the body to rot. Just the liver. These are precise, selective killers. This creates something called a landscape of fear. When orcas show up in an area, great whites panic. They detect the chemical signals from a dead shark in the water, and they flee immediately. Sometimes they don't come back for months. Entire populations of great whites will abandon prime hunting grounds just to avoid orcas. So was Shark Alpha a victim of an orca attack? It seemed plausible. An orca is certainly big enough. A large male can weigh 10 tons. Swallowing a shark tag would be nothing for them. But here's where the science gets interesting. When the researchers compared the orca theory against their hard data, it completely fell apart. The data contradicted everything we know about how orcas hunt. Let me break down why the orca theory doesn't work. First, the temperature. That 78-degree reading is crucial. That matches the internal stomach temperature of a great white shark. But it doesn't match an orca. Orcas are mammals. They're warm-blooded just like us. Their internal body temperature runs much higher, typically between 96 and 100 degrees Fahrenheit. If an orca had swallowed that tag, the temperature reading would have been at least 20 degrees hotter. 78 degrees is too cold for a mammal's core temperature. That single data point completely clears the killer whale. Second, the method. The data showed the tag was swallowed and stayed inside a digestive tract for 8 days. That's not what orcas do. As we just discussed, orcas are surgical. They extract the liver and discard the rest. They don't swallow a 9-foot shark whole, tag and all. It's just not their behavior pattern. Third, the dive. After the attack, the tag went down 1,900 feet and stayed deep. Orcas can dive, sure, but they're air-breathing mammals. They have lungs. They need to surface regularly to breathe. A rapid, sustained dive to that depth after a major hunt doesn't fit their physiology at all. And finally, the aftermath. When Port and Starboard showed up in South Africa, the shark population created a ghost town. The area emptied out. But the researchers in Australia looked for this exact phenomenon after shark alpha disappeared. You know what they found? Nothing changed. The other sharks in the region just kept doing their thing. They didn't flee. They didn't vanish. They kept hunting and patrolling as if nothing had happened. This told the researchers something important. Whatever killed Shark Alpha, it wasn't an outside invader. The killer was hiding in plain sight, blending in with the local population. Ruling out the monsters. With orcas ruled out, the investigation turned to the location. Shark Alpha was taken near the Bremer Canyon. This place is basically the Grand Canyon, except it's underwater and pitch black. The continental shelf just drops off into this massive underwater gorge. It's a deep-water hunting ground, and it's known for some seriously elusive creatures. Giant squid, colossal squid, things that live in the abyss. The idea of a giant squid attack captured everyone's imagination. Can you imagine? A 40-foot colossal squid rising from the blackness, eyes the size of basketballs, a beak that can shear through steel cables, tentacles lined with rotating hooks wrapping around the shark. It would explain the sudden dive to 1,900 feet. That's the natural habitat for these creatures. It would explain the violent disappearance. And squid are aggressive. They've been known to fight sperm whales. So a shark wouldn't be off the menu. But once again, the temperature data kills this theory instantly. Squid are invertebrates. They're cold-blooded. Their internal body temperature is identical to the surrounding water. If a squid had eaten that tag, the temperature would have stayed at 46 degrees. It would never spike to 78. A squid simply cannot generate that kind of heat. It's biologically impossible. So the Kraken is innocent. This left one final theory that the internet absolutely loved: the megalodon. People are obsessed with the idea that this prehistoric 60-foot shark is still lurking in the deep ocean. A megalodon would have no trouble swallowing a 9-foot shark. Its jaws were wide enough to engulf a small car. The power, the size, the appetite, it all fits. For decades, people have theorized that megalodons didn't go extinct, that a population survived by retreating into the deepest, most unexplored parts of the ocean, places exactly like the Bremer Canyon. Some people even argued that since megalodons are ancestors of great whites, they might have had a similar warm-blooded system, which could explain the 78-degree temperature. It fits the drama. It fits the violence. But science has to deal with facts, not Hollywood movies. There is zero evidence that megalodons still exist. If a predator that size was alive, we would see bite marks on whales. We would find fresh teeth. We would detect them on sonar. A 60-foot shark cannot hide forever. The ocean is vast, but it's not that vast. A creature that large would leave a massive footprint on the ecosystem. Relying on a prehistoric ghost to explain modern data is bad science. The researchers knew they needed something real. Something we know exists. Something with a warm stomach that lives in deep water and eats large prey. And then it hit them. The answer was staring them right in the face. The terrifying truth. The research team went back to that critical 78-degree temperature reading. They asked themselves a simple question. What animal in the ocean has a stomach temperature of 78 degrees while swimming in 46-degree water? The answer was shocking because it was so familiar. The only animal that fits that profile is a great white shark. Now, most people don't realize this, but great whites are not like other fish. Most fish are cold-blooded. Their body temperature matches the ocean. If the water is cold, they're cold. They get sluggish in deep, frigid water. But great whites, along with tuna and mako sharks, have a biological superpower. They're regionally endothermic. This means they can warm up certain parts of their bodies. They have this complex network of veins and arteries called the rete mirabile, which is Latin for wonderful net. It's an incredible piece of evolutionary engineering. This network captures the heat generated by their massive swimming muscles and recycles it. Instead of letting that heat escape through their gills into the water, the blood vessels loop it back into their core. It warms their eyes, their brain, and crucially, their stomach. This adaptation allows great whites to hunt faster and think clearer in freezing water. It makes them high-performance killing machines. But it also helps them digest food much faster than cold-blooded fish. When scientists checked the data, they found that a digesting great white shark maintains a stomach temperature of almost exactly 78 degrees Fahrenheit. The match was perfect. The temperature wasn't a mystery. It was a fingerprint. Suddenly, all the pieces fell into place. The dive to 1,900 feet? That's actually normal behavior for a large great white after a massive meal. They dive deep into the thermal layers to digest and cruise. They use the cold water to regulate their body heat while their stomach works overtime. It's the shark equivalent of taking a nap after Thanksgiving dinner. The fact that other sharks in the area didn't flee also made perfect sense. This wasn't a new species invading the territory. It was just a larger member of the same family. The super predator wasn't a monster from mythology. It was a cannibal great white. Now, cannibalism might sound shocking to us humans, but in the shark world, it's just business as usual. Shark-on-shark attacks are actually quite common. It starts early. In the womb of sand tiger sharks, the embryos develop teeth while they're still developing. The strongest embryo literally hunts and eats its siblings before they're even born. It's nature's most brutal battle royale. Only the strongest survives. In the wild, larger sharks routinely eat smaller sharks. Bull sharks do it. Tiger sharks do it. Great whites do it. It's a shark-eat-shark world out there. But here's where it gets truly terrifying. Acknowledging that it was a shark is only the first step. The real horror comes when you do the math on the size. The giant in the deep. To swallow a 9-foot, 300-pound shark in a way that gets the tag into the stomach almost instantly, the attacker had to be absolutely massive. The tag data showed no prolonged struggle. The temperature spiked immediately. This means the shark was either swallowed whole or torn apart in huge chunks in a matter of seconds. The attack likely came from below. Great whites are ambush predators. They strike from the deep, using their dark gray backs to blend into the gloom. The attacker probably saw Shark Alpha's silhouette against the surface light. It would have surged upward with incredible speed, slamming into her with the force of a freight train. The impact alone would have stunned her. Then the jaws closed. Game over. Scientists estimated the size of the attacker based on the metabolic rate needed to generate that heat signature and the sheer physics of the attack. The numbers they came up with were staggering. Conservative estimates put the predator at least 16 feet long and weighing over 4,000 pounds. That's the size of a large pickup truck. But many experts believe that's too conservative. To ambush and consume a healthy 9-foot shark that easily, the predator might have been significantly larger. We're potentially talking about a shark pushing 20 feet in length and weighing nearly 6,000 pounds. This is the size of Deep Blue, one of the largest great whites ever filmed. A shark this size is literally a submarine with teeth. The girth would be over 8 feet. The mouth would be a cavern. Think about what this means. We usually picture great whites as surface hunters. We see them breaching in South Africa, chasing seals near beaches. We see them on Shark Week, biting cages and doing all that dramatic stuff. But this discovery suggests there's a completely different class of great white out there. Deep water specialists. Giants that have survived for decades. growing massive on a high-protein diet of whales, squid, and other sharks. These animals patrol the dark canyons of the continental shelf, far from our cameras and tourist cages. They're smart, they're cautious, and they're incredibly dangerous. They don't waste time with small prey. They want big meals. Shark Alpha, despite being a formidable predator herself, was just a teenager who swam into the territory of a queen. She was dominant in her own right, but she wasn't the dominant predator. She was eating fish. The thing that killed her was eating sharks. Here's what keeps me up at night about this. We look at the ocean, and we worry about what we can see. We worry about the fin breaking the surface. We worry about the sharks cruising in the shallows. But the data from Shark Alpha proves that the real monsters are the ones we cannot see. They're down there in the darkness, 1,900 feet below the surface, living by a code of violence we're only beginning to understand. The ocean is not a democracy. It's a dictatorship. And the biggest shark makes all the rules. The super predator that killed Shark Alpha wasn't some mythical creature. It was simply a colossal version of the animal we already fear. And that might be even more terrifying than any megalodon theory. It confirms something we suspected but never really wanted to believe. The one creature a great white shark truly fears is a bigger great white shark. And here's the craziest part. That shark is almost certainly still out there. A shark that size has no natural predators. It doesn't get hunted. It just keeps eating, keeps growing, and keeps ruling the deep. These giants can live for decades, possibly over 70 years. They grow slowly but continuously throughout their lives. Every year they survive, they get bigger, stronger, more dominant. Somewhere off the coast of Australia, possibly in the depths of Bremer Canyon, there's a great white shark the size of a small car. It's been down there for years, maybe decades. It's perfected the art of hunting other apex predators. And it's completely invisible to us. We've mapped the surface of Mars in more detail than we've mapped our own ocean floor. We have no idea what's really down there in those dark canyons. We catch glimpses. We get hints from satellite tags and underwater cameras. But the deep ocean remains largely unexplored. This case proves that even our top predators, the animals we think we understand, can vanish in seconds, eaten by something bigger, something we didn't even know was there. So here's my question for you. Do you think there are 25-foot great whites hiding in the deep ocean that we haven't discovered yet? Does the idea of a cannibal giant, a shark that eats other sharks, make you reconsider your next beach vacation? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this story changed how you think about the ocean, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep-sea mysteries. Because the truth is always stranger and more terrifying than fiction.